call the May 6th, 2020 meeting of the Monroe County Board of Zoning Appeals to order. Sorry. Okay. Whoops. Jackie, there we go. All right, that works fine. Larry, you wanna?
I will call the roll.
Yes, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I seem to have lost some notes.
Okay, I'm going to call the roll. Members: Margaret Clemens,
Here.
Bernie Garitas,
Here.
William Hosea,
Here.
Mary Beth Kamarchuk,
Here.
Vicki Sorensen.
Here.
Okay, we have 5 members, all 5 members and a quorum.
Way to go, team.
Okay.
Let me just say we have a virtual quorum.
Yes. So, old business next.
Let me introduce the evidence first.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
That's fine. I'd like to introduce request that the following items be introduced in evidence for tonight's meeting. The Monroe County zoning ordinance has adopted and amended. Monroe County subdivision ordinance has adopted and amended. The rules of procedure of the Board of Zoning Appeals of Monroe County, and the case is advertised and docketed for hearing on tonight's agenda.
Do I hear a motion that they be accepted it?
Let me go ahead and call the roll just so we can have a clear verbal approval. Okay, this is just to approve the introduction of evidence. Margaret Clemens,
Yes.
Bernie Garitas,
Here.
okay, William Hosea,
Still here.
okay, Mary Beth Kamarchuk,
Yes.
Vicki Sorensen.
Yes.
Okay, evidence is admitted.
Okay, we ready for the old business?
If there are no changes to the agenda, we can proceed with the old business.
Okay, I'm not aware of any changes to the agenda. Old business case 1812-VAR-40. Katzner General Contractor Use Variance Chapter 802.
Yep, that's me, Mary Beth. And just a quick reminder for those of you that are just joining the call, just please make sure if you're not speaking to go ahead and put yourself on mute. And just one thing before I check in, the person that entered Browncliffe, which petition are you here for? The person by the name of Browncliffe?
Oh, yeah, the place on Sail Away Lane.
Okay,
It's pretty late in the meeting.
okay, thank you. I just wanted to check in. Thank
Okay,
you.
yeah, we're just going to be listening for the most part.
Sounds good, thanks. Okay, so this old business case was originally filed in December of 2018, and it's a request for a use variance for a general contractor use. It's zoned estate residential, so that use is currently not permitted on the property as a general contractor, and the business name is Riverway Plumbing. So I'll just go through quickly this slide deck, but the main updates are that the petitioner has purchased the site basically across the street, and they filed a site plan, and we're working on approving that site plan so they can move over to the place across the street that's zoned pre-existing business. So here we are in Perry Township. The site is zoned estate residential. The lot that they're purchasing is actually on the corner of Church and 37 right there, zone pre-existing business on that southwest side. In the comprehensive plan, the area is mixed residential. The site plan, the site conditions here, fairly flat. We're not talking about building any new buildings. It's actually an existing business that is happening without proper permits. So this is an enforcement case, but it's coming before the BZA to ask for a use variance, but the BZA has continued this a few times to see if the petitioner can move their business in adequate time without enforcement action. So here are some site photos. The bottom photo is actually looking north at the neighboring property, but you're right off of Old State Road 37. The property has a rental home on it. The actual owner of Riverway does not live on the site. And then there's a pole barn in the back where they do have some offices and where they store some buildings. So this is a new aerial as of April 2020. You can see kind of what this site looks like as a business. And the surrounding uses are residential, and this area is zoned residential. So typically if someone has a home-based business, they don't have more than 2 off-site employees, and they store their vehicles in a hidden location. So as you can tell, there's about 16 employees, and there's a lot of things happening out in the open without proper screening. So this is a recommendation from us to deny the use variance. A use variance is typically very hard to get because you have to prove that there's no other valid uses for the property, and actually the primary use of which it's taxed for is to be a residential use, which they're renting long term. So I will take any questions.
Any questions from the members?
I'll ask a question. This is Vicky. So you're saying he's bought property across the street? And
Yes,
so there's no buildings across the street, right?
correct, yeah.
So he has to build something. So right now he's asking us still to give him a variance.
Yes, the past, they've kind of continued the case for 6 months at a time. And this will be the 3rd continuance if it's passed as a continuance, which is basically you don't make a decision, but you ask us to not enforce on the property. But if you grant the use variance, that runs with the land. So then that land will be able to operate as a general contractor indefinitely. So, good question.
So it would be best to continue again, perhaps, and instead of granting it, because that way it doesn't go with the land. It just lets him do what he needs to do to get the other building. Is that correct?
It's up to the Board of Zoning Appeals members. Yep, there's 3 options here. You can deny, you can continue, or you can approve. And so I think that the petitioner asked him to be on the call tonight, but I'm not sure he was able to make it. I don't know if there's an updated timeline from him, but I will tell you from our office, we have reviewed the site plan and we're getting close to a point where we can approve it. So we're looking at a couple months before there's actually any buildings or occupancy at the site to move over to.
I have a question, Jackie.
Go ahead, Margaret.
Have there been any complaints about Mr. Posner's operations there?
No.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Was that who?
That's me, William.
William, sorry. Thanks, go ahead.
You said that you reviewed the site plan, and I didn't catch what you said after that, something about approving.
Yes, so the business that he wants to move Riverway Plumbing across the street, the site that he's choosing to locate, it's a permitted use, the general contractor. So he's able to submit a site plan for staff review. And then once staff reviews it and approves it, we issue building permits and he's able to start construction.
And then this business will move across the street to the new site.
Yep.
Do you have any idea how long that's going to be?
Well, like I mentioned, this was filed in December of 2019 or 2018, I should say. He had thought it would be December of 2019 that he would be moved. So at this point, I'm not sure if the current status of things throws a kink into his plans, but all things considered, once the site plan's approved, if they're moving quickly, it can be probably 4 months until 4 to 5 months, depending on how much he's building. But it's not a huge site. It's less than an acre. So we do anticipate by late fall, he should be finished.
Okay, thank you.
Jackie, this may or may not be relevant, but is this the same? Are we still working with the same petitioner that was doing the site down at Old 37 and Clear Creek? Is it Clear Creek Road or Church Road?
Yep.
Or is that the site that he's working on?
Yes.
Okay, it is the site down there, just across from the car lot down.
It used to
Down
be a
by the-
mobile home park.
Right. Okay. So he is actively working on that site. How many continuances can he have before? Can we continue at infinitum, or is there a limit to the number of continuances that this board can provide?
It's a good question. I know that if the petitioner requests the continuances, it's limited to 3. Dave or Larry, do you want to weigh in? Is there a limit to the BZA's threshold of granting continuances?
And not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Okay, and the reason why I'm asking that question is is there a difference between, and I'm not trying to get in the weeds here, is there a difference between continuance or table?
Table would go to the next meeting. Continuance you could set to a meeting in the near future.
So if we would make a motion, could a motion be that we could give staff flexibility in determining the next reasonable meeting for him to present his petition, to give him, because if we're going to give him the opportunity to get his site plan approved, which I think that's what I'm hearing from everybody, and seeing what happens there, we might as well use your guidance as staff to let us know when maybe it would be more beneficial to tie up an agenda with an approval that was closer to his site plan approval. And then if it gets we can put a maximum on that, so a petitioner just isn't utilizing the goodwill of the planning staff to review the site plan. You see where I'm going with this or not?
I do, yes. I think the issue with that, and Dave looks like he might want to weigh in, is that we have to announce the next meeting date for it to be continued to at this meeting. Is that right, Dave?
Yes, if you continue it generally, then you will have to re-advertise.
Okay.
You bear that expense. So,
Can I interrupt?
Oh, yeah, Anne's working on the site plan.
I approved the site plan today and issued a grading permit. I will go into the office hopefully tomorrow and get the building plans that were submitted and start reviewing the building permit. So the site plan was approved as of today.
Okay, so if we approve this, or if we make a motion for continuance, he's going to continue to work out of the existing non-compliant enforcement property, and then we could give him a few months to prove that he's kicking off his building construction and moving in that right direction, investing in that move, and then we can hear it at that meeting. And if he's got his site built at that point, then we can just take it off the whole agenda and he moves to the other site, or we can continue it at that time to allow him to finish up his construction. Am I missing something, or is that correct?
You're correct, yeah.
Okay.
Bernie and colleagues on the Plan Commission, given these uncertain times and with all the demands and things are just not moving at real normal speed, I would argue for the maximum continuance if it's 6 months, just because, this gentleman has come before us so many times and he's trying to make a goal of, well, he has a business already and we don't want to create any extra hardship for him. And since neighbors are not complaining, I would argue for, a 6-month continuance.
I can make them, oh, excuse me.
Should I be asking if there's anybody to speak on behalf of the petition?
There you go.
Just
No, you're right.
who else here? So, anybody to speak on behalf of the petition? Seeing none. Anybody to speak against the petition? Seeing none. Bernie, make a motion.
In the matter of case 1812-VAR-40 Patzner General Contractor Use Variance, Chapter 802 at 5605 South Old State Road 37, I move that we continue this petition to the October,
Be November, wouldn't it?
well, I didn't count 6 months. I'm just saying, yeah, November's fine. November 2020 Board of Zoning Appeals hearing.
I
Based on
second the
staff's
motion.
recommendations and the findings found in the report.
Larry, could you please call roll?
Don't we need a second?
Margaret
I
seconded
seconded
it.
Okay.
You're on mute, Larry.
Okay, let me try it again with sound. The vote is on petition 1812-VAR-40, Panther General Contractor Use Variance, Chapter 802. The motion is to continue this matter till November 2020 BZA meeting. A vote in favor is vote to continue. Bernie Garitas,
Yes.
William Hosea,
Yes.
Mary Beth Kamarchuk,
Yes.
Vicky Sorensen,
Yes.
Margaret Clemens.
Yes.
Motion to continuance is granted 5-0.
Yeah. All right. On to new business. Next up is 1.200-VAR-13 Anton minimum lot size variance from Chapter 804 and 2.2002-VAR-14 Anton minimum lot width variance from Chapter 804.
Good evening, everyone.
Hey, Rebecca.
Hi. So this is a petitioner request for two design standard variances from the minimum lot size and minimum lot width of Chapter 804. The petitioner's intent is to build a modular home with an attached garage so that the petitioner's parents can live in the home. Initially, when the petitioners bought the property, there was a home already on the lot, but it was inhabitable due to just years of neglect. So this new home that they are proposing will meet all new design standards and setbacks and be in the buildable area. Next slide, please. So again, this is a breakdown of the request. One request for a lot size variance. Our ordinance requires 5 acres. The petition lot is 1 acre. The lot width requirement is 200 feet, and currently the existing lot width is 140 feet. Next slide, please.
Thanks, Rebecca. We've got 2 new people. I just want to quickly check in with those folks if we can. New user, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, which petition are you here for?
I'm getting a variance on a building permit for a 2,400 square foot pole barn.
Okay,
Roy
and what was
Eads.
your name, sir?
Eads, E-A-D-S.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay.
And then the iPhone user?
To clarify, that was not new user. That was the phone number 812-606-6623.
Oh,
That is me. I'm on the phone. I was having a hard time getting you on the computer, so I was just listening on the phone.
thank you. Okay. And then new user.
New user does not appear to have a microphone.
Okay. And then iPhone with the starting number 317.
That's my mom. She's a owner on the Lake Lemon property.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. Rebecca, go ahead.
Okay, next slide, please, Jackie. So the petition site is located at 7245 Pine Grove Road in Salt Creek Township. Its current zoning is forest reserve. It's located, the petition site is located in an environmental constraint overlay area 1. The surrounding properties are zoned FR and the site is currently vacant. Its surrounding uses are residential. Next slide. There is some slope on this property. However, where the petitioner is proposing to build the home, it's outside of the slope. So he is meeting all slope requirements with his proposal. And then regarding site conditions, the site has frontage and access on to East Pine Grove Road, which is classified as a local road. There aren't any karst features visible on the lot. Again, it's in an Area 1 environmental constraint overlay. However, all new construction will be under the 12% slope threshold and the 15% slope threshold. And FEMA floodplain is not located on the site, and drainage is primarily due to the east. Comprehensive plan has this zoned rural reserve. Next slide. Here, to get a sense of what the lot looks like existing are a few site photos. The upper left photo is showing access against the roadway. And then the larger picture there on the right is kind of a snapshot of sort of looking north on through the property. And you can sort of see already where the home has been staked out in that bottom left photo. And again, all other design standards are met. So of course that means they've met the front yard setback as well. Next slide. So again, some more photos. The picture on the right, you can, again, this is looking north. You can see the slope that is there on the right-hand side. But again, like I mentioned, they are not going to be building in the slope. On the left is the petitioner's site plan. And then on the right is the petitioner letter. And again, just to reiterate, their intention here is to build a house for their parents. The property just to the west of the petition site is owned by one son, and the property to the east of the petition site is owned by another son. Next slide. So recommended motion, staff does recommend approval of the design standards variance to Chapter 804 for the minimum lot size, as well as approval of the design standards variance to Chapter 804 for minimum lot width based on findings of fact. Are there any questions?
Any questions for staff? I'll entertain, I'm sorry, is there anybody here to speak on behalf of the petition? Is the petitioner here?
Yes, Mary Beth, Russ Ayton would like to speak.
Yeah, we're here.
Russ, we need you to state your name.
Okay, Russell Ayton.
Okay, can you raise your right hand and let me swear you in, please? Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
You may proceed.
I just wanted to add, if it makes a difference, we already have a septic permit to upgrade the property with a 1,000-gallon tank and Presby system. And what we tore down was a 4-bedroom home, building a 2-bedroom home there. And like Rebecca said, my wife and I live on one side of the property, and my brother Roy lives over on the other side.
So we won't be having any neighbors complaining about that then?
No. We all get along.
Hope not. Any questions for the petitioner? Hearing none. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else want to speak on behalf of the petition?
Yeah, if I may, I could.
Sure. Thank you, Roy. State your name.
Roy Ayton.
Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, sir. Go ahead.
Yep, I'm the brother to the east, and I just wanted to say that any kind of impacts off this property would be, it would bear on me more than any other. And I just wanted to come out in support for the petitioner's request for a variance on both of the items. I think the items are important, but as for the frontage, I wanted to point out that between these properties on this side of the road, there's probably about 2,000 feet of road frontage. And then this is, even though this will be under the 200 feet, it's still no other buildable lots within this 2,000 feet. So we're not trying to push extra lots into this area. And then on the other item about the minimum lot standards, I think it's important. My property actually borders to the north and to the east of this, and there are no other buildable lots in that area. So everything else is just slope and preserved woods, and that's how it's going to remain forever. So I just wanted to voice my support for the petition and for the grant, the variance. Thanks.
Any questions for Roy? I didn't see no questions, Roy. Thank you. Anyone else want to speak on behalf of the petition? Saying none, anyone wish to speak against the petition? Seeing none, I will, any other questions? I'll entertain a motion now.
I can do that. And in petition, case number 2002-VAR-13, Ayton minimum lot size variance from chapter 804, and case 2002-VAR-14, Ayton minimum lot width variance from chapter 804 at 7245 East Pine Grove Road. I move that we approve the variance based on staff findings in the report.
I'll second.
Please call the roll, Larry.
Okay, the vote is on petitions 2002-VAR-13, 2002-VAR-14, the Ayton minimum lot size variance from chapter 804, and the Ayton minimum lot width variance from chapter 804 respectively. The variances are for a 1 acre parcel located at 7245 East Pine Grove. A vote in favor is a vote to grant both variances. William Hosea?
Yes.
Mary Beth Kasmarchak?
Yes.
Vicky Sorensen?
Yes.
Margaret Clemens?
Yes.
Bernie Garitas?
Yes.
Both variances are granted.
Thank you. Thanks for coming before us tonight. You have a good
All right, thank you all. Thank you, Rebecca, for helping us.
Okay, next up, we have case number 2002-VAR-15. And that's you, Ann?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is a design standard variance from a residential storage structure restriction from Chapter 802. The location is at address 1222 West Rogers Road. If we can go to the next slide, please. So it is located in Clear Creek Township. It is 5 acres and is currently zoned agricultural rural reserve. It is unplatted. So the petition site is currently developed with a 600 square foot barn built in 1985 that will remain on the property. So the ordinance that is being requested variance from is 802-5. The residential storage structure restriction is for a structure that's used for private non-commercial storage that has a size limitation of 1,250 square feet if there's not a primary use on the property. So the property is undeveloped. It only has a barn on it, has been there since '85. So not a primary use. So the site conditions, it has access to water, but it does not currently have a septic system. There is some slope on the property, but not much. It meets the buildable area. The petitioner is requesting this variance in order to construct a 2,400 square foot pole barn. It is the petitioner's intention to build this pole barn in addition to the existing barn to store his equipment, his other home, his other items in a preparation of building a home there in the future years. So next slide, please. So the property is zoned for the comprehensive plan. It's rural residential, so the character from the comprehensive plan is really not going to change much. So this is the petitioner's site plan that he submitted. The existing pole barn can be seen from on the right image. The driveway comes from the south to the north. The existing pole barn is right there at 600 square feet. And to the west, he would like to build the new addition there. I did receive an email after I submitted the packet in which I recommended denial of the variance. I did reach out and get more information, just confirming that he is wanting to build a home there in the future and that he understands that, you know, the property would need to have a primary use. So next slide, please. So the top left corner photo is coming up the driveway. You can see the existing barn. The top right is a closer view of the existing barn and a temporary porta potty. The bottom left it's too small to see, but he has staked out where he would like to see the new proposed pole barn. And the bottom right is looking back at South Rogers Road, looking down the driveway. So next slide. So because I received this email a little late, the packet and my report still said to deny the standard variance from the requirements of Chapter 802. The petitioner did submit an email saying that he was planning on building a primary use residence there on the property in the future. So, any questions?
Any questions for staff?
I do have a question. In reading everything, this is Vicki. Is there a limit of how many buildings can be built on a property and the number of square feet total of all the buildings combined?
No, it's the combination of both buildings be exceeding the total of 1,750 square feet. So that includes the existing building there.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. And you kept emphasizing that you received an email from the petitioner. Did that change your recommendation?
If I would have had time, I would have changed it to approval. I would have liked to have had more time, but I did reach out for more information at the last moment. It was a little late when I realized that I really just didn't have enough substance from him saying, even though I knew that he had talked about building a primary residence, I really just didn't have that in writing. So it was just too late to include it in the packet.
Thank you.
Any further questions for staff? Okay, is the petitioner here?
Yes, I'm here.
Do you
I
wish
can
to
see
speak,
you, but I
sir?
don't. Go ahead. I can see you guys, but I don't think you can see me.
Did you turn on your video?
I'm not that computer savvy, but I can see you guys, and I got you on the phone, and that's good enough for me.
Okay.
What's your question?
Okay. Do you wish to speak?
Pardon, you it skipped out.
Do you wish to speak?
Yeah, yes, thank
Okay,
you.
let me swear you in. Can you
Okay.
please raise your right hand?
I got it, yep.
Okay. Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do, yes.
All right. Thank you, sir. State your name and
James Roy Eads. The reason why I'm wanting that size building is the house I recently sold a little over a year ago. I had 2,450 square feet of garage space and storage there. And most of my stuff, now I've gotten rid of a lot of stuff, but most of my stuff is shop related, like woodworking tools and stuff. And it's all packed in a 20 or 40 foot container out in the hot sun. And it's not good to have tools like that in a container. That's why I want to build the building, get my tools over there. And once I get them in the shop or the pole barn, then I can use that stuff to build the other house, the small house that I'm retiring in. So that's the reason I wanted such a, that size of building. Also, I had garage space at the other place also. I have 3 vehicles and I've got 1 classic car I want to restore. So that's the other reason for such a big building.
okay. Anyone have any questions for the petitioner? No questions for the petitioners? Okay, thank you, sir. Is there anyone
Thank
else
you.
here? Is there anyone else here that would like to speak on behalf of the petition? I'm seeing none. Anybody else? Anyone here wish to speak against the petition? It's kind of hard to judge whether anybody's wanting to speak or not. So,
I'm checking for you, Mary Beth. You're good.
okay. Guess we can entertain a motion.
Case number 2002-V-15. Design standards variance for residential storage structure, chapter 802, 1222 West Rogers Road. I move that we approve the variance based on staff's report and practical difficulties.
I second the motion.
Larry, could you please call roll?
Yes, the vote is on petition number 2002-ER-15, East Residential Storage Structure Variance from the maximum square footage requirement under Chapter 802. Property is located at 1222 West Rogers Road. The yes vote is to vote to approve the development standards variance. Mary Beth Smarchuk,
Yes.
Vicki Sorensen,
Yes.
Margaret Clemens,
Yes.
Bernie Garitas,
Yes.
William Hosea.
Yes.
Variance is granted 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And one other thing too, in regard to Zoom, there should be in your upper right-hand corner the ability to flag or wave your hand.
It's under,
Okay.
actually, if people go, if someone wants to speak and they want to go to manage participants, they'll be able to get their hand raised. But you can also physically raise your hand or chat us. That's both functions to speak.
But when we get to, if there are several speakers in regard to a petition, you might want to raise your hand at the beginning of that testimony.
And I will mention for folks that are just joining us, Neil Patzner, your case was actually first. So it was continued to November 2020. So we'll be following up with you, Neil. And then let's see anybody
Thank you.
else. Thanks.
Pleasure to see you, Neil. Okay, we ready for the next case now? That is, make sure I'm on the right page here. Okay, I'm sorry. Case number 2002 VAR -16 2002 V8 VAR -17. And that's Bruce.
One quick other note, sorry, before we get started, Larry reminded me, if anyone that's listening on CATS TV would like to make a comment on one of these petitions, they can email us at planningovfice@co.monroe.in.us. I'll also put that in the chat. Go ahead, Ann.
Thank you. So this is two design standard variances from Chapter 802. They're both from condition number 55, which is relevant to the accessory dwelling unit. In this case, it's for a detached accessory dwelling unit. So the petition site is located in Clear Creek Township. It is at address 8966 South Ketchum Road. It is a 4.72 acre lot. So the petitioner is requesting two design standard variances. So the first is they're both from condition number 55, but it has multiple points underneath it. So the first one is that in order to have a detached accessory dwelling unit, the owner must have a minimum lot size of 5 acres. And the second point is that the detached accessory dwelling unit is limited to 1,000 square feet of residential or livable space. So currently the petition site contains a 1,274 square foot home and has a 144 square foot shed built on the property in 1995. So the variances are requested in order to permit the DADU, detached accessory dwelling unit, so that the petitioner can build a new single family residence home. So permit the existing home as the accessory dwelling unit and build a new primary residence. So the petition site is currently zoned agricultural rural reserve, and the comp plan states it as being Makua phase 1. I'm sorry, not Makua, it's, what is it? Rural residential? No, farm and forest. There we go. So the site
Can have both going.
Okay, check that out.
So the site has a little bit of slope. There is a pond towards the east side of the property near South Ketchum Road. Most of the drainage in that area drains towards that pond. There is a fair amount of buildable area towards the west side, as you can see in the bottom right photo. Let's see, next photo, please. Or next slide, thank you. So the top left photo is a pictometry photo, and that is going to show the So this home was a part of just recently a 2-lot administrative subdivision called the Barger Type E subdivision, where they adjusted the lot lines. So in the top left photo, the home that we're discussing that would be the detached accessory dwelling unit is the smaller white house towards the middle of the photo, and the other lot, the second lot's home, is towards the top left of the photo. You can see the pond kind of draining towards the road, which is highlighted in pink. So thank you. So the bottom left, the top left photo is the detached accessory dwelling unit as it currently sits. The bottom left photo is actually, even though there's a fence that is owned by, well, it hopefully will be owned by the petitioner, that area, even though there's a fence, that field that we see just before the barn is a part of the lot 1. So to the right is the most recent plat of the Type E. We can see that there was some transfer area that was, because the neighbor to the south, they're just landscaping and gardening kind of encroached, so they decided to adjust that lot line. Rather than having an L-shaped, they decided to just split it in half. Before this lot line shift, the parcel that the petitioner is interested in was 5 acres exactly. With the Type E, they were required to dedicate right-of-way, which did drop it down from 5 acres to 4.72 acres. So this is the petitioner's, this is their plan for their primary residence. It's a fairly small home. They're looking to build a primary residence with an attached garage, an attached covered porch, and a small studio in the back. The petitioner is seeking to do this because which I know he's on this call, he can speak more to this later, but he is seeking, the intention of the variances are to allow his son-in-law and daughter to live in the detached accessory dwelling unit, and he can live in the primary residence, which the son-in-law does have a disability that would, with being on the same property, would allow the whole family to stay together and have a, more of a family environment. So is there another slide, Jackie? Okay, so this is just going over that this was the Barger Type E that did adjust those lot lines from this lot changing from 5 acres to 4.72. That was pending before the petitioner was interested in the lot. It was pending since October 2019. I reviewed the administrative subdivision initially, and it was just kind of waiting for a while, waiting on signatures. Petitioner approached me this spring, and they were interested in doing, having a second house, and we went through this process. So going through this, they were able to get the Mylar and this administrative subdivision kind of moved forward. So that has now been recorded, which does make it now under the 5 acres, and the detached accessory dwelling unit is 200 square feet over the minimum requirement. So staff recommendation, with the findings, we did find that there would be a hardship, and staff recommendation is that to approve both design standard variances from the DADU condition number 55 for the minimum lot size and the minimum area requirements of chapter 802.
Any questions for staff? Seeing none, is the petitioner here?
Yes, I am.
Would you like to speak, Mr. Byers?
Only if you have questions for me. I think it speaks for itself, and it's done a very good job.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Byers? Thank you, Mr. Byers.
Thank you.
Anybody else here wish to speak on behalf of the petition? Anybody here wish to speak against the petition? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion, please.
I can do that.
Thank you, Bernie.
Actually, that's William.
Oh, I'm sorry, William.
That's okay. We look alike. Case number 2002-VAR-16 and 2002-VAR-17. Petitioners buyers requesting a design standard variance, Chapter 802, detached accessory dwelling unit, condition 55, minimum lot size, and a design standards variance, Chapter 802, detached accessory dwelling unit, condition 55, maximum area at 8966 South Ketchum Road. I move that we approve the petitioner's request.
I second that. The good-looking twin.
Please call roll, Larry.
Okay, the votes on petition 2002-VAR-16 and 17. The buyer's development standards variance request for conditions 53 and 55 of Chapter 802 regarding detached accessory dwelling units. Vote in the favor is to grant to vote to is a vote to grant both variances. Vicki Sorensen,
Yes.
Mara Clemens,
Yes.
Bernie Garitas,
Yes.
William Hosea,
Yes.
Mary Beth Kumarchuk.
Yes.
Both variances are granted by a 5-0 vote.
Thank you, Mr. Byers.
Thank you all.
Okay, up next we have case number 2003-VAR-18. Ann, this one's you.
Yeah. Okay, so this is the Enos home-based business variance from condition number 16, Chapter 802. So, Mr. Enos, this is a home-based permit variance. He is approved for a home-based permit, but there is a condition with that, which is number 16, that does require outdoor screening of outdoor equipment. So the property is located in Richland Township, Section 15. It is located at address 6675 West Ratliff Road. So the home-based business condition is that no use shall be conducted within a building or structure on the site. So the main part that we're looking at is that equipment shall not be stored as to not be visible from street or adjoining property. So if we can go to the next slide, the property is currently zoned agricultural rural reserve and located off West Ratliff Road. So it is, with the comprehensive plan, it is zoned rural residential. So the petition site is 10.37 acres. There is not much hill or slope on the property. It naturally drains towards the east of the property. So this petition originally began as an anonymous complaint that started an enforcement case about burning debris on the property. So upon investigation, the zoning inspector identified that a commercial business was being run on the property without proper permitting. The petitioner met the criteria for the home-based business, was very compliant. We went through the process, but in order to get final approval for the home-based business permit, he would be required to add some screening in order to not see the equipment from the road. So on your screen currently, on the left is a pictometry view. It's a little bit outdated. The middle of the screen is a aerial view. You can see expanded parking and quite a bit of equipment. On the far right is a list of some of the equipment that he has. Quite a bit of it was present during a site visit. The property is located on a hill. It can be difficult to see, but it is visible if you were to look, to the, what direction is that? Look to the south as you're driving east on Ratliff. You can see it from a church parking lot that's kind of up on a hill. So this is looking up the driveway. The left is the zoomed out photo. On the right is if you were to zoom in, you can see a bucket truck, you can see multiple pieces of equipment. So closer view of the primary residence and more equipment. It was not all there, but I think that's the majority of the equipment that he does have. It was a rainy day. I don't think there was too much that was gone that day at all. So I just don't want to miss anything. Looking at the report. Okay, so staff does recommend approval of the design standard variance with the following condition, which is to plant 5 native trees listed within Chapter 830, Table 30-5 or 30-6, which is our landscaping chapter. Something either along the driveway or along his property, something that would mitigate visibility of his equipment. But would not be as extensive as building a barn or extensive screening because the property is naturally located on a hill, is visible from multiple properties. So it seems somewhat reasonable. Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions for staff? Hearing and seeing none. Is the petitioner here?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you like to speak, sir?
Yes, I would.
Could you state your name for me, sir?
It's David. I go by Josh Ennis, E-N-N-I-S.
And could you raise your hand? Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
I'm in the top of my house here in the second story, and where Ann wanted me to plant some trees to hide it from the Nazarene Church area. I kind of wanted to show everybody, since we're on virtual meeting. So I'm going to turn my computer. Let's see here. The Nazarene Church is past that blue barn up on top of the hill. And there's a major tree line there. And you can see a glimpse of it. Of course, you can see the top of it. But with the tree line that's already there, you can't see from that direction. And then where she took a picture, it's actually humped into my property right when it gets to the road. It's humped about 12 feet down. And the only way you can see down my driveway is when you come up on top of my hump where the driveway is. So where she took those pictures, she had driven up on top of the hump to look straight down the driveway. And you can see it from Steve and Kim's house, which if you're looking on the site map, I don't know if there's a way to pull that back up or not, but the big pole barn, that'd be, let's see, yeah, there it is. Okay, that's good. The big pole barn, if you looked at the picture on the left, that whole area, the only place you can really see is where you see that car driving down the road is right there for about, so I don't know, maybe 20 yards. You can see my stuff right there. And you have to be looking at it as soon as you top the hill or you'd completely miss it because it slopes down from the angle where my driveway is, where it kind of makes turns to the right and left right there at the road. That's where she had humped up there to take the picture. So I did tell Ann, if you go up to the right, if you go all the way down my driveway, where the park starts on the right side, which you can see in the picture on the right, I'd be more than happy to plant a couple of trees right there in front of that. And then, whoever's doing that mouse is move to the left and go up some. Yes, right there. But the other side, my wife, it was just last week, somebody drove down my driveway in the evening. She was outside and she thought it was me, and it was dark because it was a truck. And she went inside, and every now and then I'll go ahead and I'll check my final emails for the day and things in my truck. She sent my 7-year-old son out to get me to tell me dinner was ready, and somebody was sitting out there. So I really, who had the mouse? That'd be great if they could move that back. Yes, if you can go to the picture on the right. If I could keep from having to plant trees there, which wouldn't do anything from seeing from where I initially told you at Steve and Kim's house, because of that angle, because of the hillside, you can see right through that, whether I planted trees in front of that or not. I'd like to be able to see if somebody's coming down my driveway from my house, and my wife, just for absolute safety, to be honest with you. So I guess that's what I'm asking for. And that'd be about it, I guess. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Does anyone have any questions for the petitioner?
This is Bernie. So my understanding is the petitioner doesn't have a problem with the 5 native species trees. What he is trying to do is discuss with staff certain locations. Ann, are you in agreement with what Mr. Ennis is talking about there?
I was imagining planting something much farther down the driveway, closer towards the road. That might still block his view of the road from his house, but it certainly wouldn't block visibility as somebody turned into and drove up his driveway.
Do you understand what Ann's saying?
Yes, I do. And if I did that, I wouldn't be able to see the pull out because it's on a hump and you've got to get there to see if cars are coming.
Yeah. So there are some trees already planted, existing trees. I was thinking something along, where the cursor is, something that might fill in that area.
There's already half a dozen trees right there to begin with.
There's only a few.
There's 6. I mean, I look down my driveway and see them now.
All right, so Mr. Ennis, where staff is proposing those trees, that won't impede sight distance turning out onto the county road. Is that correct?
It would not. However, it's also, that is where my culvert is. Water sits there constantly. So if I plant trees there, they're not going to live regardless. So, I mean, if you want me to plant them there, it's fine, but they won't live.
Well, I think what staff is trying to do is find a practical location to screen, because that could be part of a site plan requirement. So,
and, I'm sorry to interrupt you. And
no, go ahead.
It still would not block the view of where I was talking about, where you can actually see my stuff, because I can't come over any further because that's Steve and Kim's property to begin with.
And do you know where Mr. Ennis wants to plant these trees?
I don't really. I understand that he doesn't want trees near his house. There's really no way to block visibility of his extensive amount of equipment around his house. It's not feasible. He is on a hill. No matter what he did, he would not be able to block it around his home. I think the most practical way would be to block somewhere down towards Ratliff. I was thinking the tree line. Maybe it could be something farther from the road. I think that's probably fairly reasonable. I didn't notice a culvert in that area. It is a hump up, kind of where those trees are. Mainly just trying to find a happy medium because it is visible, but there are difficulties with blocking all of the equipment. The petitioner is on the verge of frankly being too large for a home-based business permit. So mainly just trying to find like a happy compromise where we can block all of the outdoor stored equipment while not, limiting his usability of his 10-acre lot.
Right, and I guess, and I don't mean to dwell on this, but what I'm trying to do is maybe have Mr. Ennis, and I think it's worth our time here, to show where he wants to plant the trees. And if I missed that, I apologize, and show you where that's at, because if not, you're going to be in a back and forth with the petitioner for probably quite a while to get this hammered out. And I'm trying to help you not have.
Yeah.
Sarah, I'm sorry if I'm interrupting. The whoever used the mouse earlier on the picture on the right, if you were to go up and to the left right there, that would block if you were looking straight down the driveway. And then those other trees are already up there it'd be to the north. You can kind of see them. There you go. Yeah. And then if you see my property line there, I guess that'd be towards the east. Yep. Where that car is, there's nothing that can be done to not see that corner right there. And if I was to plant trees right there along my gravel, I couldn't see people coming in and down my driveway.
So on that whole strip, you can't find a place for 3 more trees
I mean, I can, but if I planted them further straight down, I mean, I just have to come straight down and it'd be planting trees for no reason. You know what I'm saying? Not to mention it'd look goofy as can be. I could plant 5 trees, big trees right there in a row, straight down from there if you want me to. And I'd also like to say that the property straight to the west, which is it's like a jungle, it'd take forever to clear it out. But I am actually looking into buying that. There's 22 acres there. And it's completely secluded. You can't see anything from back there. And I'd actually like to move all my stuff over there eventually, but I'm still in the discussion with my neighbor who owns it. He's wanting to sell it, but I'm not saying that's a done deal. It's not, but that's the future plan, hopefully. Because I don't really have a good place to build. What?
I'm sorry. Jackie, would you mind going back to the site conditions and the slope map?
Sure. William, did you have a question? You have your hand raised.
No, they answered it.
Okay. This one, Ann?
Yeah. So I think mainly what we're getting at is, so I visited in the early spring. There weren't leaves on the trees. Things were more visible than as they are now, but that is also life in Indiana. The majority of our year, there are not leaves on the tree. I know your grandparents live in the property directly to the east. Would they not be fine with something that would follow the tree line?
They actually live, if you look at the property directly to the north, that makes another L. Well, actually, they're combined. It's like make 2 L's. That's Stephen and Kim's property, the Fords.
Yeah, directly along the driveway.
They're on they bought that as an estate, as in like a living estate, I guess you could say. That little trailer directly behind the pole barn is their home, which you couldn't see from the road anyway.
Yeah, so we can kind of see that, I mean, there is drainage where that existing tree line is, but is there not something that you could plant along just south of the existing trees that we can see in the upper left map? We can see the existing tree line near, what is it, 792 elevation, something that might run maybe near your property border. That would give you plenty of driveway that you would see if somebody came up your driveway, but would probably provide enough foliage that it would block it from Ratliff. And I'm not necessarily worried.
On the same east and west line as where Steve and Kim's house is, the main residence closest to that.
I'm thinking kind of a natural grouping, still facing towards Ratliff, but along that property boundary. I'm not necessarily worried about that view from Ratliff. I'm mostly looking for a happy medium because I know we don't want to ask you to screen your home and where your equipment is, because that would be quite extensive. So do you think clustering of landscaping that we could maybe do in that area.
I mean, I could plant some trees right there on the same east and west line that Stephen Kim's house is. That'd be on the hump and wouldn't have a drainage issue there with the kill the trees.
Margaret, did you have a question, Margaret?
Yes, I have a question, two questions actually. If we grant this exception to condition 16 for home-based business, does that exist in perpetuity or just for Mr. Ennis and for this particular business, which has to do with his tree service industry?
That's a good
question. That's number one. And then the second question I have is, at what point is the size of the home-based business considered to really be too large when it when the equipment really is not able to be concealed, you know, by the buildings or the structures on site?
Yeah, so the first question, it would not exist in perpetuity. It would only apply to Mr. Enos's home-based business. He is approved for all other facets of getting a home-based business, except for the screening, outdoor storage screening requirement. The second question is that, I lost my train of thought. What was the second question? It was about
at what point is this too big?
The threshold. So the threshold right now, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jackie, if there are more nuances, but right now the threshold is at employees. So right now we would allow 2 off-base, away from home employees for 3 total. So 1 at the residence and 2 away from the property.
Yeah, I think, Margaret, your question is well pointed. I think we don't have a great use distinction for like rural landscaping or rural contractors. So this is somewhere between general contractor and home-based business. And what we're trying to do is have him apply and meet all the standards for home-based business. So as Ann stated, if we made this variance additional specific to this home-based business, obviously if he moves the site next door, that does not apply to that new property. But if he does get too big and we get a new complaint, we would have to find that he has too many employees or that you know, the character of the area has substantially changed, and that is difficult for us to find out both of those answers. So.
And on page 94, in one photograph, on one day, I see 10 vehicles in the driveway, and that's kind of excessive for a home-based business. That's, you know, to keep within the zoning restrictions is just an observation I'd like to share with my colleagues on the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Yeah, I would like to make one point though. If you grant a variance, that runs with the land. So in any home-based business that would go in there, you know, I think would be subject to that variance, would be able to enjoy the benefits of that variance.
So for instance, if he decided to even change the nature of his business and decided to do something that was more noxious, for instance, considered to be more noxious by the neighbors, then we would be approving that home-based business tonight.
You would be approving the variance from condition 16. So you could accept a commitment from him that if the business ever changed, you know, to a different type of business, that variance would be considered void, but that would require a commitment, I think.
Okay, thank you for clarifying, David.
Can I say one thing real quick? I personally own 7 work trucks. 2 of them are getting sold. I'm replacing the 2. And that's why I've got 7. So there'll be 5 total of my trucks. I do have 2 employees, and I am a quarter mile off the road. I don't know if that matters to you guys, but the nature of my business, I don't have anybody that comes here to buy things or you do plans, or it's just my employees that show up. It's not, I'd be happy to go through and show you the trucks that are mine and not in that photo if you'd like. At one point in time, I did have 4 employees. I've been operating out of this business or this location because my dad owned it prior to myself for 12 years before there was ever a complaint. And the complaint that was brought forth had nothing to do with me running a business. It was the fact that I burned some stuff here on the property and they weren't happy about the smoke. Every person that I was required to send a letter to reached out to me and said that they'd be happy to come to the meeting, which obviously didn't happen in my favor. I do allow people every now and then, my neighbors especially, we bring home logs at times that make good firewood. They come here and I let them have it to heat their homes in the winter. My cousin Craig, who's one of my employees, does cut some wood here and sells it on his own time. But other than that, there's nobody that comes here for business reasons. And the people that do come here for business reasons are my employees, and the people that don't are coming here as a favor. So there's no money involved with, go ahead.
Yeah. Similar to the first case, if folks do decide to continue this case, he's still operating and able to operate the business out of this property. And maybe we could take another chance to talk with Mr. Ennis about specific, any kind of compromise on screening and commitments and things like that. Just to throw that out there to the BCA members. We do have a lot.
I did say that I would plant the 2 trees from one side and the 3 more up the hump, which would be south of where Ann initially said, not by far, but like 50 yards.
And do you know where he's talking about? This is Bernie. I'm sorry. We're getting hung up on some stuff here that is important, but we're looking at 3 trees on a quarter mile driveway. So let me ask again, Ann, do you understand where Mr. Ennis wants to plant these 3 trees on the east side of the driveway? Has he been clear to you on that?
Not exactly. And I think we are confused. The requirement that I did include was 5 trees. I think we could clarify the area.
I think 5 is fine. We've got 2 on the west side in front of that bump out. It looks to me on the west side of the driveway. So we're looking at 3 trees. I see a grove of trees up where Mr. Ennis is saying culvert. And I'm wondering if those trees block the view of cars coming down his driveway. The big trees up there, just south of the driveway on the east side of
they're taller, so the foliage is higher. Yes, sir.
Okay, so my
they're taller, so
suggestion
the foliage is higher.
My suggestion is that we plant the 3 trees between those trees and Ratliff Road so that as we do not obstruct the sight distance to Ratliff Road, which we wouldn't anyway. And they'll be on the north side of those trees. So once the car or any truck comes down that Mr. Ennis wants to view, it'll be in that first section. And once they get south of the existing trees, then it'll be the best chance for the visibility. And if he's got to put in a dinger or a light or something up there to notify him, then I don't know that these trees are going to be the end all to making sure that he doesn't know somebody's coming in his driveway or not. So I'm prepared to make a motion.
I think that sounds really good, Bernie. Thank you.
The area that you said, there is a water line coming right down my driveway right there. And it also would not block from the area which I said that you can actually see my equipment.
Okay, then I can still make a motion.
Okay,
and I'll be ready when you're ready, Mary Beth, once you've done all your stuff.
Okay. Anybody else here to speak on behalf of the petition? Seeing none, anyone here to speak against the petition?
I'm not seeing anyone, Mary Beth.
Okay, thank you. Bernie?
Okay, in the matter of case number 2003-2003-VAR-18 Design Standards Variance, Chapter 802, Home-Based Business Condition 16 at 6675 West Ratliff Road, I move that we continue this petition to the next BZA meeting, and I would suggest that Mr. Ennis go ahead and just put on a map the location of where he wants the trees and bring that to us so we can see exactly what he is planning. And then I also suggest that he come up with a written commitment to address Margaret's question regarding a commitment for the property that he can also work out with staff, and they can maybe explain that a little bit better to him than what I can at this time.
In that meeting, Bernie, just to clarify, is on June 3rd.
June 3rd, thank you.
I'll second.
Greg, could you please call the roll?
Okay, the vote is on a motion to continue petition 2003-VR-18, Enos home-based business condition variance request to the June meeting. All vote in favor is vote for the continuance. Margaret Clements,
Yes.
Bernie Garitas,
Yes.
William Hosea,
Yes.
Mary Beth Kamarchuk,
Yes.
Vicky Sorensen.
Yes.
The petition is continued to the June meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Okay, next up, we have case number 2003-VAR-20. Drew?
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
A little quiet, but yes.
A little quiet. Yeah, I'll hold it up like this. Maybe it'll help. Okay, so this is the Carter front yard setback variance for chapter 833. Jackie, if you go ahead and go to the next slide. So here's some summary and background. The petitioner requests a design standards variance from the front yard setback requirement, chapter 833, for the purposes of constructing a 24-foot by 24-foot attached garage. The proposed garage will be attached to the west side of the existing single-family residence. And that existing residence is located approximately 56 feet from the center line of South Leonard Springs Road. The attached garage will be located approximately 104 feet from the center line of South Leonard Springs Road. Now, according to Chapter 833, the front yard setback requirement for structures in the RS 3.5 zoning district with frontage to a minor arterial roadway is 65 feet measured from center line. So the existing home encroaches into that setback approximately 9 feet, and it's therefore classified as non-conforming. And since the garage will be attached to that non-conforming structure, it has to go through the variance process. Okay, so the property is located at 2728 South Leonard Springs Road in Section 12 of Van Buren Township. It's currently zoned RS 3.5. The comprehensive plan has it designated as Makua mixed use. And then Makua Phase 2 has it designated as, I believe it was, if you go back one slide, it's designated as N1. Okay, so now we have some site conditions here. The site is 0.44 acres and is accessed off of South Leonard Springs Road and West Fleener Avenue, which is a local road. The primary residence utilizes a septic system. There are no known karst features on the lot. FEMA floodplain is not located on the lot, and the majority of the property exhibits slopes less than 15%. Drainage of the site runs east and southeast. Okay, so now we have some pictures here of the site. So this first one here, you can see the driveway cut and the petition sign. That's South Leonard Springs Road there. And the one in the middle is a reverse image. You can still see South Leonard Springs Road and the driveway cut. And then the top right photograph is of the front yard of the home. So some more photographs here of the home to the roadway, just from different angles. And we can go ahead and go to the next slide, actually. Just some more images here. The bottom right photograph really shows that distance from the center line to the existing single-family residence. So here we have some aerial photography of the site. I'll show the site plan here in the next couple of slides, but the proposed attached garage will be placed to the west of this extension that they have here, so that they can use it with their driveway. So here we have the petitioner's letter to the Board of Zoning Appeals requesting the variance. And here we have a pair of site plan images. So you can see in the left image some more detailed measurements of the site with respect to the project. 24 by 24 foot attached garage. You can see again the home is about 56 feet from the center line of South Leonard Springs Road. And the garage itself, of course, will sit well outside of that setback at 100 and I believe it was 109. 104, excuse me. So department comments, the highway department had no comment and the stormwater department didn't have any comment. So finally, staff recommendation is approval of the front yard setback requirement to chapter 833 based on the findings of fact and subject to the Monroe County Highway Department and stormwater engineer reports. I will now take any questions if anyone has any.
Anyone have any questions for Drew? Is the petitioner here?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you wish to speak?
I've lived here since 1994.
Sir, if you want to speak, I'm going to have to swear first.
I've lived here since 1994 when I bought
Can
the
I swear
property.
you in, sir?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Please state your name.
Randy Carter.
Okay, continue, sir.
Thank you. I've lived here since 1994. Fleener Avenue, when I this place, did not have a variance on that road because that was still part of my land. I found out when I did this variance in 97, I guess the county took it over, which I wasn't aware of it because nobody's ever plowed it or maintained it. Usually we had somebody just come in, my son or whoever, to plow the street to let us have access to get out in the winter time. And like I said, I did not know the county even took it over. We and my wife are getting up in age, and we would like to have a garage to put our vehicles in to keep them out of the weather. And that's why we're trying to build a garage.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Anyone have any questions for the petitioner? Seeing none, is there anyone else here that you wishes to speak on behalf of the petition?
We did have someone just enter the meeting. Camille Wheeler?
Yes.
Can you hear us? Okay, are you here for a certain petition?
Yes, I'm here for the Lake Lemon case.
Okay, that's coming up. Just want to check to make sure. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
Anyone,
you.
anyone here that wishes to speak against this petition? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion, please.
I'd like to make a motion.
Thank you, William.
Case number 2003-VAR-20, petitioners Carter, requesting a design standards variance, chapter 833, front yard setback at 2728 South Leonard Springs Road. I move that we approve the petitioner's request.
I'll second that. Please call the roll, Larry.
Okay, the vote is on petition number 2003-VR-20, Carter front yard setback variance from chapter 833. A vote in favor is a vote to grant the front yard development standards variance. Bernie Yeritas,
Yes.
William Hosea,
Yes.
Mary Beth Marchek,
Yes.
Vicky Sorensen,
Yes.
Margaret Clements.
Yes.
The variance is granted 5-0.
Thank you, Randy.
Very much. You guys have a great night.
You too, sir. Okay. Everybody ready for the next one? Here we go. It is case number 2003-VAR-21. Take it away, Rebecca.
All right, Jackie, next slide, please. Okay, so here we have a use variance request. And the petitioner is seeking this request in order to continue renting the property at 8935 East South Shore Drive for short-term rental. So the current use of the property is considered tourist home or cabin, and that is not permitted in the zoning designation, which is suburban residential. So therefore, the owner needs to be granted a rezone or a use variance. Other nearby zones to the petitioner is forest reserve, and so that requires a minimum of 5 acres. So the possibility of rezoning wasn't really practical, so the petitioner is requesting a use variance instead of a rezone. During a recent site visit to a location nearby the petitioner's property, planning department noticed or became aware that the petitioner's property was potentially in violation of its permitted land use designation. And so after an online inspection confirmed that the home was being rented as a short-term rental unit, we went ahead and sent an enforcement letter requiring the immediate cease and desist of the use. So I want to take a minute to define what, actually, Jackie, you can go back one slide if you don't mind. Okay, thanks. Before I talk about location and zoning, I just want to say that a tourist home or cabin is defined in Chapter 802 as a building or portion thereof in which 4 or fewer guest rooms are furnished to the public under the terms of a short-term lodging agreement. Okay, so that is sort of the background that I wanted to share with you. So just quickly, the location again is at 8935 East South Shore Drive, which is in Lake Lemon. The current zoning is suburban residential. Site conditions, this is a 0.4, give or take, acre parcel. It's a share and access point with the Bloomington Yacht Club. There is some there's some slope on this property, but where the petitioner's home is, it does not impact, the slope does not impact the location of the petitioner's home. Okay, next slide. The comprehensive plan has this designated as rural reserve. Next slide. And here are some photos so that you can get a sense of this property. Upper left is looking at the front of the house. Upper right is looking at the house from East South Shore Drive. Behind it, the building in the red, I think that's the Yacht Club. Bottom left is standing on their property looking west towards, there's like an inlet there that's adjacent to their property. And bottom right, again, is just looking from the roadway up to the property. You can see the inlet there on the left. The front of the house is on the right. Next photo. So again, similar photographs. The upper right photo is a shot of the home across the street from the petitioner. Bottom left is kind of standing in their driveway, and that is the Porthole Inn there, that gray building in the bottom left. And bottom right, again, is the front of the petitioner's house. This is an image looking down at the lot. Do note that north is to the left. And you can see the Yacht Club and Porthole Inn, and then you can see their driveway again. That comes off East South Shore Drive. Next slide. So I wanted to point out here in this table that tourist home or cabin is not permitted in the suburban residential zone. It is permitted in a couple of other zones, 3 other zones specifically, and then 5 other zones conditionally. Next slide. So let's see. I wanted to, I did intend to include the letter that the petitioner sent. So BZA members, I know that was in my original packet to you. So I do hope you had a chance to read through that. It was a quite detailed letter that they submitted on their behalf. And I'm sorry, I meant to have it in this slideshow, but I didn't make it in it. I didn't get it in there in time. So I just wanted to point that out. And then from there, our recommended motion is denial of the use variance for a tourist home or cabin based on the findings of fact. Are there any questions?
Questions for staff?
I've got one, Rebecca. When you were in the air, this is Bernie, excuse me. When you're in the area and you happen to notice that there might be some sort of issue with this property or this home, what was that issue when you were nearby?
We were looking at something else in the vicinity, and it caught our attention that perhaps the house is being permitted, rented. Okay. And so, yeah.
Bernie, there's a few tourist homes in this area. And so it was also just like a general Airbnb review that we sometimes have to do. We try not to go looking, but if something is immediately adjoining something else that's a complaint, we have to follow up on it. So
I understand. I was just curious if there were, trash and litter or cars lined up out to the road or something that was just curious.
No, none of that on their site, not at all.
Okay, good. Are there other tourist rentals in this area that are permitted?
There is one other permitted nearby, and it is permitted due to grandfathering.
Okay, that's all I've got.
I have a question, Vicki. Do they advertise this as a tourist home, or how do they get people to rent?
I believe it's just advertisement for like vacation rental.
Did that answer your question, Vicki?
It did.
Okay. Any more questions for staff?
I see some petitioner questions, Mary Beth, but we'll get to them in just a second.
Okay.
Have there been any this is Bernie again. Have there been any complaints by neighbors or by the porthole maybe? I don't know.
When this case was noticed in the newspapers, we did actually, and the petitioner sign, petitioner put up the notice sign in their front yard. We did get some neighbors calling in to ask about the situation, and they did submit a remonstrance letter, which should be in your packet.
Right, but nothing with no complaints prior to this becoming a petition that people were maybe seeing this as a nuisance.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Any further questions for staff? Would the petitioner like to speak?
Yes.
All right. Can you state your name?
My name
Yes.
is yeah. Hi, Dad. Can you let me read my letter here really quick, please?
Hold on just a second. Which one are you speaking currently? And could the other one please mute?
Yes.
Okay. So Elizabeth, okay, state your name and raise your right hand, please. You swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth.
My name is Elizabeth McMullen, and I do.
We're having a little trouble hearing you.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
That's much better. Thank you, Elizabeth.
My name is Elizabeth McMullen, and I do.
Okay. And what would you like to tell us today, Elizabeth?
All right. So I apologize in advance. Number one, I'm not the best speaker, and so I should be thankful that this is a Zoom meeting, although I don't talk loud enough usually for this either, so I'll try my best here. Feel free to let me know if you're having a hard time hearing me. I'm going to try not to get emotional, but you have to understand that this has been a project, a family project for several years, and it's a place that we have all become very sentimental about, and this whole situation basically puts us in a financially difficult position. So I would like, if it's okay, to read this letter. I might not read it in its entirety. And then there's a couple specific things within the letter that I would like to highlight. So to the kind members of the Monroe County Planning Department and whom it may concern, we are requesting a zoning variance to be allowed short-term rentals in our home located.
Elizabeth, I'm sorry, but we can't hear you very well. I'm sorry.
Can you hear me now? Is this better?
Yes.
Okay. Let me try this again.
Quick note, it's going to be best if you speak very loudly and very slowly.
Okay.
It will help it pick up.
Okay. We are requesting a zoning variance to be allowed short-term rentals in our home located at 8935 East South Shore Drive, Unionville. When we purchased our home in 2018, our desire for the property was to use it as a family vacation destination, a staycation spot where friends and family could, sorry, this is hard to read like this, where friends and family could gather by the lake and around the campfire to decompress from our busy lives. A dream was hatched back in the early 2000s while photographing the early morning steam rising from beautiful and serene Lake Lemon. We dreamed that one day we would have a home away from home there to enjoy ourselves. We live in Brown County, so we're just a stone's throw from Lake Lemon. We spent time frequently driving to Lake Lemon to do 4-H photography and found the lake's beauty increasingly enticing as the years passed. In 2018, an opportunity presented itself for a family venture to occur. We weren't entirely sure how it would work as grandparents who were preparing for retirement and a daughter who was still entrenched in student loan debt and knee-deep in diapers. But we took the leap together and promised to make it a fun and bonding family effort. We believed after researching the other local short-term rentals, and at the time there were many at Lake Lemon, and our realtor never mentioned that short-term rentals weren't allowed or that there was a different zoning variant. We knew that House Bill 1035 had passed in the state of Indiana, allowing for short-term rentals, and we did not. It was ignorance, in short, that we did not know that Lake Lemon did not fall under that umbrella of the state law for short-term rentals that have passed, and nobody told us that. Our realtor did not mention it, and we were unaware. mistake. We should have checked. But that is what happened from that standpoint. We believed after researching the local, I'm really sorry, this is hard to read. After researching the local short-term rental financial comparisons at Lake Lemon in Nashville and Bloomington, that if we could rent weekends only through the high season, that we could take on a mortgage and upfront investment without seriously jeopardizing both families' financial planning for the future. We deeply regret not more thoroughly investigating the surrounding ordinances and our failure to understand that legislature introduced in 2018 for the state of Indiana would not potentially apply this location. When we purchased the home, we spent a significant amount of time and resources in making sure that the home safety was what it needed to be in order to protect our guests as well as the little ones in our own family. We added railing at multiple locations of steep grade and repaired and strengthened existing railings. We made repairs to the grade and the drainage system to keep water intrusion away from the foundation of the home. We have added a carbon monoxide detector. We have strict rules in place limiting the occupancy of the home regarding noise and parties, and we have installed ring security cameras to protect both ourselves as well as our neighbors, as there have been local break-ins next door to us. We have a book of rules and recommendations in our kitchen that we ask all guests to read and abide by. We have had a complaint from our neighbors on one occasion that our guests were not staying within our property boundaries and had wandered onto a neighbor's dock unknowingly. The renter contacted us and let us know, and we immediately got back with them with a detailed property outline that our surveyor had done so that they could clearly see. Following that incident, I immediately went online and I updated the property boundaries. There's actually a marker where we have an easement that goes almost the entire length of that small canal. And there is a cement post at the end of it. And I took pictures of that post and I updated the website that we were renting on to show renters you cannot go past this marker. We also took the surveyor's map that we had and we framed it and we hung it in the house so that our renters would know where our property boundaries were. And since that time, we have never had a complaint made to us that anybody had trespassed. We have never had the police called on our home. We have never had a neighbor reach out to us subsequently. I actually spoke with that neighbor's grandson in person. He came to our house one day while I was there and told me about the interaction that my guests had also discussed with me. I extended my apologies to him. I told him that all the steps I had taken to ensure that our property boundaries were made more clear. And I gave him my personal cell phone number as well as my parents who reside in Brown County's home and cell phone numbers, as well as my husband's phone number. And I asked him if there were ever any issue whatsoever to please contact us and we would take care of it immediately. But apart from that, we have never had any further neighbor complaints, and that was that was probably 4 months after we purchased the home. So it was about more than a year and a half ago at least. Let's see. We have attempted to beautify the home as well as the neighborhood by repainting the entire home, adding shutters, painted shutters, window boxes with flowers, and staining the entire deck and all of the wood accents in the back of the home. We have strict rules which we share with our guests to try and protect it from having any problems or from being any nuisance to our neighbors. We feel with our extremely low occupancy that a burden of a short-term rental is less on the septic system than a small family living in the home full-time would be. Also, I would like to interject that our septic system is brand new. It was just placed just prior to us purchasing the We have tried to give back to our community and neighbors. We have recommended the Porthole Restaurant and provide every single renter who stays in our home with a $5 gift certificate to apply to a meal at the Porthole, so that we can encourage people to visit some of the local places. We have brochures of many local businesses in both Brown County and Bloomington for our guests to peruse, as well as in links on the guidebook that we provide online. Co-owner Dr. William Adams has been an assistant professor at Indiana University since 1974. Several of his children have graduated from Indiana University, and one enjoyed writing in the Little 500, images of which decorate our basement walls. We love the surrounding communities of Bloomington and Nashville. Our heart's desire has always been to be a good neighbor and give back to our community. One financial goal for our home was to dedicate a percentage of the income and establish a nonprofit foundation supporting high-risk pregnancies. Sorry. Since owning the property, we've had a financial loss each year. Our hope was that 2020 would be the year to get our nonprofit off the ground. If we are no longer allowed to have some short-term rentals, it will be a severe financial hardship to both of our families. We will have to sell the property and we will lose our dream that we attached together, shy of even being able to personally enjoy the property. We feel that totally disallowing short-term rentals is to the detriment of Lake Lemon as a whole. Many people would benefit from a short visit to see the beauty of Lake Lemon. There are no commercial hotels or dwellings available at the lake, so only owners will be able to appreciate such a special place. Our guests, by and large, have been extremely respectful and appreciative of the opportunity to visit the lake. Lake Lemon has been advertised, even promoted by the Indianapolis Star and Indianapolis Monthly as a vacation destination. If there are no short-term rentals allowed, this is nothing but a pipe dream. Allowing short-term rentals provides a new generation of visitors to fall in love with and contribute to the local economy. Our continued hope is that you will please allow us to continue our minimal short-term rental schedule for the foreseeable future. We hope eventually our rental schedule will be only available when we are unavailable ourselves to enjoy the property. We love the home. We have put many hours and sacrificed much to make our cozy cabin a safe and comfortable location for ourselves, our guests, and our neighbors. We would love an opportunity to continue to be a part of this special community. And we thank you very much for your time and consideration of our request. And then there were just a couple of things extra that I wanted to note. One is that in the entire time that we have owned this property, I had a thing on our listing that required every guest to ask permission to bring any kind of watercraft to our home, whether it be motorized or a kayak or canoe or whatever, that they had to ask permission first. And in the 2 years that we've owned this property, we have only had one guest ever bring a boat, one. There's only one guest who has ever brought a motorized boat, which to me is surprising since it's not a lake, but that is the honest to goodness truth. The one thing I would also say is that I really wish that we could show you before and after pictures of the property so that you could appreciate all of the blood, sweat, and tears and time and energy and effort that has gone into fixing this place up. I mean, my family, we camped in the living room while we, painted the bedrooms ourselves. We painted the whole outside. Like I said, we repaired all of the woodwork, and I think if anything, we have improved the property value, which I would think would also improve our neighbors' property value. I am committed to both my guests as well as my neighbors, and I'm truly saddened that there was a complaint about this, and I just wish they knew that had they reached out I would have taken care of it. And I would always be accessible to my neighbors. I truly desire to give back to Monroe County in any way that I can. I think that's it for me.
Mary Beth and other board members, if you would like me to implement, I know there's quite a few people that want to speak. If you want me to start the timer for 3 minutes, I have that ready.
Okay, thank you so very much. Appreciate that, Jackie. Anyone have any questions for the petitioner? Staff, that is.
Yeah, I've got a quick question. Mary Beth, or pardon me, Mary Beth. Mary Beth, just asking the petitioner, have they read the deed and are they familiar with the deed restrictions that accompany the property?
This is Dr. Adams. I haven't been sworn in yet.
Are you going to be able to answer this question, Dr. Adams?
Yes, I can. I did
Let
not.
Let me
Yes.
swear you in first.
Okay,
Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. And you are to the petitioner, Dr. Adams. Who are you?
I'm one of the owners of the property.
Okay, thank you.
It's your daughter.
And Elizabeth is my daughter.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we knew who we were dealing with here. Yes, Bernie asked if you guys read the deed when you bought the property.
I did not read the deed in detail, no.
Okay. You didn't read the restrictions on the deed then?
No, I did not see that, that there was an exception with that.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Bernie?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Any more questions for the petitioner? Would anyone else like to speak on behalf of the petition?
Can I ask a question, please?
Sure.
What is the restriction within the deed specifically? I mean, the one other thing I was going to say that I'm glad that this was brought up was that our dock, we have a dock on the canal. Our dock was not photographed in any of those pictures. Is the deed question in regards to the canal access?
It's general restrictions on the neighborhood. It's, I assume the petitioners have a copy of this deed? Is that right, staff?
It is located in the packet, right, Rebecca?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I'll find out what page and I'll report back. Hold on.
I've got in at page 149 and 150.
149 and 150, yeah.
That's in the packet?
Yes. It was submitted as part of the remonstrance letter.
Have you read the remonstrance letter?
Yes, I did.
Okay. All right.
I don't know that I fully understood quite a bit of that, though, to be honest.
Okay. I need to ask at this time, is there anyone else who here that you wishes to speak on behalf of the petition?
I do.
Okay, can you state your name, raise your hand, and I can swear you in?
My name is Camille Wheeler.
Okay, Camille, do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, thank you.
I just wanted to get on here and say that I myself was personally a guest, a renter at the petitioner's property for New Year's Eve. And I just wanted to speak on their behalf and say that they are the absolute best renters. They were very, very strict on their rules. They had strict guidelines on how many guests we were having, what exactly we were going to be using the property for. They provided a binder of rules and guidelines. They had pictures of their property outlined, and they were able to be contacted within minutes. I had phone number of both Elizabeth and her husband, and I believe they also listed the phone number of Elizabeth's parents. And like Elizabeth mentioned, they also recommended the Porthole Inn to eat at and many other places in Brown County. So I just wanted to get on here and say that they are excellent. Our stay was excellent, and we just love the place. So that's all.
You're muted, Mary Beth.
Sorry about that. Anyone else have any questions for Ms. Wheeler? Thank you, Ms. Anyone else wish to speak on behalf of the petition?
I wish to speak, but I just want to speak neutrally because I'm on both sides in a way, because the three people that wrote the letters are very close friends that I love. I've known for 37 years.
Okay, can I swear you in real quick?
Yes.
All right.
Right here.
Tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do. My name is Suragi Altala.
Thank you.
So in 2000, I started working on having guest houses here at Lake Lemon. At 2001, I opened my guest houses, and I turned full-time rentals into guest houses. I currently have 2 still. Where her guest house is located, it adjoins the Porthole Restaurant and the Sailing Club. And the Sailing Club has tons of traffic. The Porthole has lots of traffic. I live directly across the street from the Porthole. My house was in the picture. I have seen people wildly on the property doing terrible things, and they were the Porthole people and not her guests. I've never heard or seen any problems with her guests, but I have seen Porthole people, people at the Porthole that park in the driveway and run across the property when it's not being used. Now, my house, which is 3 houses down from hers, or 4 houses, my main biggest guest house, was for 9 years a full-time rental. I rented to 3 computer nerds who were 25 years old, and then one would move out, another one would move in, another move out, in for like 8 or 9 years until I always had 3 25-year-old men. And they wouldn't take care of the property. They wouldn't mow the lawn. They leave trash all over the yard. No matter what I do I have lots of renters. I've been a landlord for 40 years. No matter what I do, I can't get my renters to take as good care of the property as I do. When my house became a guest house, now my lawns are immaculate. There's no trash, and there's very few people in here. I was in a fight in 2008 with the zoning commission. I wish it was some of the same people, where they made a lot of statements about guest houses that just weren't true. I've been here at the lake for 18 years. I have a lot less use of my septic system, a lot less damage on the property. I don't understand why this zoning was changed, and luckily I am grandfathered in. I realize that my neighbors have concern, but they would have a worse concern if they had those 3 guys that were renting my house back in the house, because they would have all the problems, whereas the guest house is treated well. And it's a big difference too that she adjoins the Porthole, which is the big loud mess all the time, but they're grandfathered in, and the Sailing Club, which has nonstop cars going back and forth. So she's almost like in a commercial area anyway. And I think if anything, it adds to any other houses being sold in the neighborhood, because the house is going to be better cared for than when she turns it into a full-time rental. So I don't want to go against anybody. I wish somebody had met with me about it. I wish the zoning department would meet with me. I have 18 years experience. Last time in 2008, the zoning department made a lot of decisions about guest houses without even knowing the experience that people had. I wish I had more time to talk, but my time is up.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions? Okay. Is there anyone else here that wishes to speak on behalf of the petition?
Yes, this is Dr. Adams.
I've already
and
Dr. Adams.
Yes, and I just wanted to say that that we have really spent a considerable amount of money and effort, as Elizabeth has already said. We've improved the safety of the property. even if somebody from the porthole would wander over there, before there's a steep bank going down to the canal, and someone that was inebriated could easily go over and fall down into that canal over a lot of riprap rocks. And we put retaining walls down through there. We've improved the drainage to the area, have cleaned up the property, made a fire pit for people to do s'mores outdoors and just enjoy the vista. We are really concerned about the property because we stay there as well. It's as Elizabeth has said, it's for family, and not just the short-term rental. And we really don't rent it that much. It doesn't get that much use, and it's rented. And the question came up, how is it advertised? And it's been through Airbnb, just online, the online rental place. We've had the privilege of having students' parents come in for graduation and that sort of thing. So we really feel like that we anniversaries, birthdays, and we limit the number of guests. We have Ring doorbell systems, so we can actually know who's coming and going, and we monitor that. And if you go by there now, it's mowed, it's clean, it always looks good, and we would just love the privilege of being able to help share some of the financial cost of this property, and we really could use that right now.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any questions for Dr. Adams?
Dr. Adams, I have this is Bernie. How have you improved the drainage on the property?
Well, the gutter system was just came out and was washing and eroding down into the canal. So we rerouted the gutters. We buried that flexible pipe and took it over toward the septic field, where the drainage went around to the north side of the septic field, and would naturally come out. And there's an area where we have riprap going down that was already there actually, and so it goes to that area. David Carrico owned the property, built it new on an old foundation. Actually, the foundation was grandfathered in, and was the only reason that he was able to do that property, and did a new build on it that was actually completed, I believe, around 2016, because all of the everything in the home is new. The furnace, the air conditioning, the hot water, everything, all the plumbing, including the septic. And they did a very nice job on getting that septic field put in, and getting the right kind of drainage. We don't have any water stagnating on the property, and we don't have any runoff. It's not washing any of the soil away like it was. So we feel like we've really improved that.
Mary Beth, I have another question.
Okay.
This is Bernie again. Ms. McMullen or Dr. Adams, how many nights a year, how many days a year do you think and if it's in the packet, I missed it, so I apologize if this is redundant, but how many nights or days a year do you estimate that you spend on this particular property using that structure a year?
As far as our use?
Yeah.
Well, the rental, I'm guessing the rental, Libby, you could perhaps answer that. I'm guessing maybe 30 days of rental.
For our personal use, I would say it depends obviously on the time of year for us as well. In all honesty, like our entire intention for buying this property was for us to use. So my parents just welcomed their 25th grandchild dream was that we would all be able to sit on the deck at Lake Lemon and people would
I
be able-
understand it's a beautiful dream. What I'm asking is how many days or how many days do you believe that you spend on the property in a year as a family, your immediate family or yourselves?
We have not had I guess what I need to cut to the chase to is we've not had the chance to spend the time there because we still have lots of little kids who don't swim and that type of thing. So right now, I would say my personal family, we go down there and stay a long weekend about every 2 months, probably right now. And I would say as far as like our guest occupancy goes, we really don't start having many guests. IU graduation weekends pretty much usually a given. And then after Memorial Day through about October would be our high season. And then I would say, like, we get busy with our own families and the holidays and stuff, so we're not there much at all through the winter.
No one's here.
The place virtually stands empty. So I can tell you our plan, if we can't have a short-term rental, we're going to do 30-day long-term rental. So, I mean, there's going to be a lot more traffic at our house than there is right now. There's going to be a lot more septic use than there is at our house right now. We don't want to do that, but we don't have a choice. I mean, it's the only way we're going to be able to pay the mortgage on the place. So, I mean, right now our occupancy is not good. I mean, we've taken a loss on the place every year, but that was okay because, again, it was an investment for the future. So we're not using it frequently now, but I mean, as our kids get older, we would like to be down there. I mean, my thought is that every family out of my parents' 8 kids, we would split up every weekend and everybody would get their weekend. And if the family passes on their weekend, then we'll rent it. That's our long-term plan. But for right now, we were just trying to come up, I was trying to make sure that my parents' down payment and Chris and I invested in the furniture and outfitting the place, that both of those upfront initial investments and the first 2 years worth of mortgage payments were covered by the rental. And then whatever.
Right. Ms. McGuire, I think that answers my question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, can I make another small statement?
Real quick, yes.
Okay, so like I said, I live across the street from the porthole, and my rental house, my guest house is behind the porthole, 3 houses down from hers. And I also have it as a guest house so that I can use it. My family that lives in the area uses it. I walk down in front of her house almost every single day from May 1st until November 1st. I travel a lot in the winter, so I'm not down, but I'm walking down and checking on my house and using my house every single day. Even my guests are there, I walk down. And like I wanted to say is that I have never, ever seen any problems there. And sometimes I walk down 11 o'clock at night and 12 o'clock at night, just checking on things. So I'm like eyes and ears in the neighborhood, and I am around all the time to see what's going on. And mostly it's the porthole makes a lot of noise and a lot of problems and fights in the parking lot. And that's the problem we have in the neighborhood.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else here who wishes to speak on behalf of the petition? Okay, seeing none. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak against the petition?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
First.
Who's first? Go ahead.
Who all do you have?
Just speak.
I'd be willing to. This is very.
Okay, sir. Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, thank you. And state your name again.
Barry Clark.
Proceed, sir.
I am the resident that lives across the channel and lakefront of this particular property. And it was my parents that subdivided these lots and put the deed restrictions in place on these lots. They did so because they wanted these lots
all around this property, all around this channel, to be residential lots, to be homeowners, the people that we know will care and respect their neighbors. And it sounds like the people that bought this, although I've never met them, are those kind of people. They seem very respectful. They seem to really care about the property, and they have done a lot of work to it. But my fear is, based on what I just heard, that they're looking to rent this a lot to make up this property difference. And that's is completely contrary to the purpose that was set out when they divided these lots. And it speaks to two of particularly of the deed restrictions in place on that property that says it can be used for no commercial purpose whatsoever. And also that, which is item number 1 of the deed restrictions. And also item number 4 of the deed restrictions, where it can be, misspoke there. I'm sorry, item number 7, where no noxious or offensive activity can be carried on, which would be detrimental or a nuisance to the neighborhood. Paraphrasing there. I know they said that there's been no other boats traffic up through there. I don't know who's there when there's people there, but I've seen a lot of boats going up and down the channel into that home. They may be the renters, or they may be people visiting the renters. I don't know. But you're supposed to have idle speed going up the channel, and they come in too fast. They wash the channel walls. In fact, my grandchildren and my son-in-law were in the water, and they had to quickly get out of the way for a boat coming in. So we've just had problems with that. I know there's 2 other people that were cited on my remonstrance letter and signed that later that wish to speak as well regarding problems that they've had with the rentals that have taken place already. And this was with, I guess, a very limited rental schedule compared to what they're expecting in the very near future, if this would be approved. So that's my position in it. If either one of those other people are not on, because I know this went a lot longer than what we were anticipating, I would be glad to speak for them, but I'd like Sherry Peterson or Kathy White both to speak as well.
And I'm Sherry, and I'm here.
Are there any questions for Mr. Clark?
Yeah, Mary Beth, I'm sorry. This is Bernie again.
No worries.
Dave, are you still on? Schilling?
Yes, I just had to unmute, Bernie. Sorry.
I got you. My question is, I mean, I don't know that this description necessarily pertains to this property. I mean, we don't have anything that shows that, and for us to go through and determine that, that's not our job. But say this deed and these deed restrictions do accompany this property. Is that something that we would consider in our determination, or is that a civil matter that the neighbors would have to take up with the petitioners in order to enforce?
Yeah, that is a civil matter.
Okay, thanks.
It's a private contractual matter.
I understand. Okay, that was the only question I had.
Thank you, David. Thank you. Any other questions?
Could I clarify something?
Yes.
Dr. Adams, we don't have any plans to increase the amount of rental. In fact, I have intentionally restricted for the insurance. We had to state the maximum number of days that we intended to rent the property. And I believe that was actually 60 days, but we have no intention of really renting it that much. Ever.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else here that wishes to speak against the petition?
I would. Sherry Peterson.
Okay. Sherry, do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I will. I do.
Okay, thank you, Sherry. You may proceed.
Okay. Well, I would like to back up just before I start what I had to say with the gentleman's last comment about not intending on renting it very often, and that for insurance purposes they needed to put 60 days is what they've put. But that contradicts everything thing that was being spoken about earlier, and with Elizabeth um, and the financial burden that it has put on them. And it seems to me that they would want to rent it 365 days a year if they're in that big of a financial situation over the money that they've spent. The place is lovely. The place is beautiful. That we don't have a complaint. That's not the issue here. They keep it up better than I live at 8890. It looks better than my place. I'm not saying anything about the way this lovely house has been remodeled. If you would look at that last slide picture where it showed the lots marked off, and they were speaking of the Bloomington Yacht Club. I and my family bought in the 50s when the lake was going in, and they bought up on Sunshine Drive, and then this lot down here with, actually there's two lots. One is on the channel that's a 75 by 25 foot lot. Can you see in that last picture that you had of the properties, the property pictures? Because there's a clear lake lot property with nothing but a little shelter house, and then to the west of that is landlocked. Everything here is landlocked. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so the sailing club where that red building is has absolutely 000, other than I think they might drive their driveway. They might have to drive through that easement to get to their place. I am landlocked parallel with the Bloomington Yacht Club, and I own that lot all the way down to the shelter house that I don't know if you can see right now, with those two campers. And then if you go past right there where that pink line is that ends theirs, there is a 75 foot long by 25 foot lot that is totally separate and totally mine. Doesn't have anything to do with the sailing club. So I don't know why the sailing club was even brought up on that, because all that land, that little L-shaped land, that is mine, and a couple other people's names are on a couple of deeds over there. As far as the trespassing, I hate to call it trespassing, but we have had more than one occasion of renters going down there on our property. I don't know if they can control it. They act like they're very strict, but they do come onto that property because they want to get in the lake. And we have ran more than one people off, not just a one-time occasion. The only other thing that I think I want to say, because my time's up, is when they purchased this place, I spoke with, I guess it was the Carrico family, and I don't know how many families it's gone through since David Carrico, but he was the guy who was from Nashville and coming over, and it was all going to be a totally family thing, and my kids, and it was never, ever, ever, ever discussed to be an Airbnb, which is how they advertise. And so I didn't know that until this all came up, that they were even doing an Airbnb, until some problems have come up. And that's all I have to say, I think.
Okay, thank you.
Can I respond to that, perhaps?
You can, as far as I'm concerned. Who's speaking?
Is Dr. Adams?
Oh,
I would like to request that Dr. Adams has had sufficient time to speak, and we should just move on. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Is there anyone else here that wishes to speak?
I do.
Against the petition?
I would like to speak. I am Sasha Adams, and I am one of the co-owners of the property, and I haven't
Okay.
spoken.
Are you speaking for or against the petition, ma'am?
I'm speaking for, but I just want to make a clarifying statement
Okay,
is
do
all.
you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I certainly do. I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth.
Thank you, ma'am.
We are limited by Airbnb. How many days a year you could rent it, even if you wanted to. I mean, it's you're not allowed to. If by the definition of an Airbnb, you can check those kind of facts out. It was never our intent to pay for the whole place by renting it. We're simply trying to recover some of the investment that we put in. We had a brand new retaining wall put on the backside of the house that was like almost $10,000 to do, because all that was there was, even though the place was finished very well inside, the outside was where it lacked a lot of attention. And we haven't spent very much time there because truthfully, we've worked on it ever since we had it. It doesn't rent at all in the winter. The New Year's thing on a holiday, yes, and maybe one rental during the Christmas season, and then it's since empty for the most part. Of course, this year it's been a low year anyway. So the fact of renting a lot is never going to happen. All we're trying to do is supplement what we've put in there with enough investment to offset some of the costs we've spent. And as our kids get older, my daughter mentioned that there are 8 children in the family. They're all married and they all have children. And most of their children are young. But I have no doubt that they will spend time there, as we will, just for a family gathering even, or a partial family gathering. We often do that where it's just 1 or 2 families. It's very seldom, and anyone who has children knows this, you can't get everybody together even if you want to. But that's pretty much it. It was never thought that this was going to support it. And frankly, the thought of renting was something we have no time to do, to be honest. Libby does do the booking, but it was never with that intent of being a landlord. It was simply to help us to finish this off and do it, period.
Okay, thank you, Mrs.
I have a
Adams.
point of order. I have a point of order that I'd like to assert. And number one, we have entertained arguments in favor of the petition, and we are now in the process of hearing the statements against the petition. And I don't think it's fair if after every statement against the petition, the people for the petition have an opportunity to respond. And I'd like to just state that as a point of order and see if we could go forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. Point noted.
I concur.
Okay. Anyone else like to speak against the petition?
Kathy, you're on mute. There you go. Go ahead, Kathy.
Okay, you can hear me?
Yes, Kathy. I need you to state your name.
My name is Kathy White.
Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Proceed.
This matter was brought to my attention. We also had no idea that this property was being utilized in this manner. Came as a complete surprise, and actually answered a few questions as to why there had been large, seemed like because of the noise level and the partying till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning that kept us up. And that was how we decided that this was not going very well, along with the behavior in the channel, as Ms. Berry mentioned, boats going in and out too fast. So that was the portion that we wish to speak to, was noise levels and seemed like partying and activities like that.
Okay, thank you. Anyone have any questions? Anyone else wish to speak against the petition? Seeing none, can I call for a motion, please?
Mary Beth, let me ask this question. Now that we're through the public is for and against, in a reasonable statement or amount of time, I would like for the petitioner to be able to rebut, or not necessarily something in closing, but if there are facts that were put out there that they can contradict in a reasonable manner, I think it would be okay for them to be able to do that.
I would like to say that I would like an opportunity for the members of the Board of Zoning Appeals to have the opportunity to now speak amongst ourselves about the issues at stake.
Either way, I don't have a problem with that. I just think that there's been remonstrators, and the petitioner should be able to address comments that they may not feel is accurate.
Okay. Well, in terms of something that is of concern to me as a member of the Board of Zoning Appeals is I think it's irrelevant how many days that they intend to rent the property and how many days that they have listed on their insurance that they intend to rent the property. I think the question is, are we allowing this property to be a rental property? Because those details can change in the future, no matter what the intention of the current owner is. And I think that if we do permit this use and this variation, that we must be prepared that will be a rental property. And the intentions, as well stated as they are and as well intended as they are not really germane at this time. So I think that we as members of the Board of Zoning Appeals must keep that in mind. Thank you.
I'd like to say something. If we approve this, will we be having the same issue before us again? And if so, how much? With other properties?
And I would like to say something. Are we talking about a rental where somebody rents the house for an extended period of time? Are we talking about this being a tourist home and cabin to rent on a weekend?
Sure. They would be allowed to, under current zoning, they would be allowed to do long-term rentals. It is a vacation rental.
So we would have to distinguish that though, wouldn't we?
It's distinguished in the code, Vicki. It's 30 days or longer is long-term, and then less than 30 days is a short-term. So Airbnb is typically short-term.
Okay, and they would have to acknowledge which way they're going, wouldn't they? Are they?
One's permitted and the other's not. So yeah, if they were taxed and things like that. I want to go back to William's question. If we approve this, will you get many more requests in the SR zoning district? And Dave, step in here, but we're not setting a precedent here. This is specific to this property to allow for the use to happen here, but there are a lot of other SR zoning district lots in the area that would benefit if there was a change. But the zoning would still stay the same, so it would still not be permitted in SR unless people rezoned or sought a use variance.
Thank you. Any more questions?
This is Larry. I just wanted to follow up on what Jackie said. It doesn't create a legal precedent. However, I think we may even have another variance that's in the queue in this same general area. So there is a question of legally. No, you don't. Every case is unique, and doesn't just because you grant a variance one time doesn't mean you have to grant it the next time. However, I think you can see the practical problem of consistency.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody comes in has the same set of circumstances in the same neighborhood, same zoning district, same size lot, etc. We like to be consistent. I'll put it that way.
Thank you, Larry. Could I entertain a motion, please? Anybody?
Yeah, I can do it. I'm looking for I'm looking for my title sheet here, the case number. Excuse me. There's a couple things that compel me there's a couple things that I'm compelled with. One, the upkeep of the property, I think, has been done very well. Two, it's in a commercial area with the porthole and with the yacht club adjacent or fairly adjacent. And we've heard some very eloquent neighbors and informed neighbors talk about issues that have been in this area. And according to the petitioner, those cannot be necessarily pegged on the inhabitants of the house because of the other uses on properties immediately adjacent to this. I'm not worried. That was a great question about the precedents, but I never worry about that because every site is unique. And the deed restriction, well, I think everybody should read their deed. Again, that's not something that overly concerns me as a person on this board. So that's kind of where I'm coming at for my motion. So in case number 2003-VAR-21, I move approval of the request of a Chapter 802 use variance, tourist home or cabin at 8935 East South Shore Drive, parcel number 53013530005.000-03. I move approval based on practical difficulties.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Larry, please call the roll.
I just want to get a clarification from Dave in regard to the standard for use variance. It's not, I believe it's undue hardship rather than practical difficulties. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So Bernie, if you feel comfortable making a motion saying that based upon a finding of undue hardship as opposed to practical difficulties.
I do that, and that's what I intended to do. Thanks, Larry.
Okay. Okay.
I based my motion based on the staff report and undue hardship by the petitioners.
Okay. I will go ahead and call the roll now. The the vote is on a motion to grant the use variance for 2003-VAR-21 McMillan use variance from Chapter 802 to allow a tourist home in an SR zone on this site. A vote in the favor is a vote to grant the use variance. Mary Beth Kamarchak?
Yes.
Vicki Sorensen?
Yes.
Margaret Clemens?
No.
Bernie Geritas?
Yes.
William Hosea?
No.
Okay, the variance, and if I'm incorrect here, 3-0 or 3-2, the motion is approved.
That is correct.
Okay. The use variance is granted by a 3-2 vote.
Thank you, everybody, for your input and for showing up in these difficult times. Enjoy your vacation home. Okay, next up, we have case number 2003-VAR-22. And Rebecca?
Hello. Okay, so let me organize here. All right. So this is a front yard setback variance request for property located at 2009 West Quarry Drive. It's about 1.6 acres and it's in Perry Township, Section 6. Jackie, next slide. So the current zoning is RS APA, areas intended for annexation. So this is a zone that we administer now. Sorry, a train just went through. A train went through my backyard. I'm distracted. Next slide, please. So what the petitioner would like to do is build some steps or covered steps on the front of his house so that he can get to and from the garage more conveniently and especially more safely in inclement weather. The building currently sits right at the property line. So the proposed porch that they are wanting to put in encroaches in the front yard setback by just a little bit. So that's the need for the variance. Here we are looking at a slope map. There is some slope on the property. However, where the proposed porch is, it is not impacted by slope. Site conditions, again, there's some contour on the property, but it's less than 12% and nothing that the porch would impact. Next slide. The comprehensive plan designates this property as Makua mixed residential. This is a slide showing some of the zoning details for residential single family, which is what this property is zoned. You can see here that the minimum front building setback is 15 feet from the right of way. Next slide. Here I wanted to show you what the property looks like. Top left photo is looking south. You can see the existing set of steps and a small walkway that leads to the attached garage. The bottom left photo is looking at the house from the street. And then the center picture, I wanted to include in the presentation because you can see the petitioner's neighbor to the right has a similar deck already built on their house. And I think it's just a case of this house and this lot being slightly on an angle that, puts the home right at the setback line. And then the bottom picture is again just the front of the house looking north. Here we have the site plan. You can see the proposed deck coming off the front, and again, where the existing building sits at the setback line. I also wanted to point out on this slide that they are doing, in addition to the front porch, they're doing an addition off the back of the garage, but that does not need any kind of variance. To the right, we have an image of the petitioner's letter, just indicating that they're wanting to build the front porch steps for easy access.
Rebecca, I just want to clarify. I think the front setback is 25 feet requirement, just to clarify for the BZA.
Thanks. Yeah, that's correct. Yes. Sorry, I kind of blew through that. Okay, so staff recommends approval of the front yard setback variance based on findings of fact. subject to county highway and drainage and engineering reports. Are there any questions?
Any questions for staff? Is the petitioner here?
He is, yeah.
Would you like to speak, sir?
Sure, real quick. I won't make it a long one for
Need
you.
to swear you in, please?
Yep.
Can you state your name?
Japheth Nelson.
Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I own the property, but my grandfather lives there. Trying to take care of him. As far as the garage, I know you said that. I just want to make sure I'm clear. I don't want to start building anything that I'm not allowed to. But the garage, I just will need to extend it far enough so his car will actually fit in there. When we bought it, we didn't realize how small that garage was to fit his car in there. There's no entrance inside the garage to go into his house. So he has to actually go outside of the garage and onto the front deck. The deck is not going to be really big. It's really going to mainly cover the concrete steps that we have there now. But I'm going to create kind of a ramp and a deck with him so he can walk out of the garage from his trunk getting groceries or his car and really go into there. I'm just trying to protect him as he's getting a little bit even more older. So I just wanted to make sure I'm on the same page of what to do. I didn't know if I could build a roof structure on top of that deck just slightly, just to cover over to the garage, just so he can get into there dry and safe and protect from ice. That's the biggest thing. So I didn't know with that. So anything to help with that in mind, be greatly appreciated. Anything as a minimum, I'll be more than happy to follow along with, but that's my ultimate goal for him.
Yeah, just to clarify, Jay, this is a variance specific to the porch, or the proposed deck, excuse me. And the proposed addition to the garage is meeting all the requirements. So we can talk with you separately about that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then the proposed front deck, then
Yeah.
I didn't know if that's allowing a roof structure
Yeah.
in it as well with this.
Mhm.
Sorry, I've had Lauren Wood and Joel dealing with this a lot more than I have. Sorry.
Sure.
So
Any questions for the petitioner? Seeing none, is there anyone else here who would like to speak on behalf of the petition? Seeing none, is there anyone here that would like to speak against the petition? Seeing none, I can call for a motion, please.
In the matter of case number 2003-VAR-22, with the request for front yard setback variance, I move that we approve the request based on the findings of fact and subject to the county highway and drainage engineer report.
Thank you. I'll second that. Okay. Larry, please call the roll.
Okay, the vote is on petition number 2003-VR-22, the Nelson front yard setback variance. A vote in favor is a vote to grant a variance from the front yard requirements for the residence located at 2009 West Corey Drive. Vicki Sorensen,
Yes.
Margaret Clemens,
Yes.
Bertie Garitas,
Yes.
William Hosea,
Yes.
Mary Beth Kumarchuk.
Yes.
Okay, the variance is granted 5-0.
Thank you. You have a good day. Next up, and at last, we have case number 2004-VAR-23 and 2004-VAR-24. And that's you, Drew.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is two design standards variances. The first one is the Van Buren Fire Department minimum parking variance from Chapter 806. That's with the number 23. And then the second one is the Van Buren Fire Department streetscape variance from Chapter 830, and that is number 24. So let's go to the next slide, please, Jackie. Thank you. So here's a summary of the petitions. So petitioner is proposing 5 parking spaces with 1 ADA space, which will largely offer parking to the public. The parking lot near the existing fire station will provide additional parking, and the new fire station will house all fire department vehicles indoors. Proposed landscaping does not meet streetscape requirements per the submitted site plan for this property. And the property is fairly unique in that almost all parcel boundaries include street frontage. So the trustees are applying for this variance because they are concerned about site distance when planting a dense landscape buffer along the streetscapes. And as well, the petitioner will have to meet all other landscaping requirements outside of the streetscapes. And that is including perimeter parking, bioretention, and buffer yard landscaping. The trustees will be preserving and planting trees as part of the commercial site plan that's currently under review by the planning department. But they're requesting that variance from the streetscape for most of the perimeter, like I stated. So here's the background for the petition. After meeting with the engineer for the project, which is Bynum Fannie and Associates, some recommendations were made. And there's 4 recommendations here. First was to rezone to institutional public because there was different zonings that did not allow for the use of a governmental facility on the site. And that was approved. I had the date wrong here. That was approved today at the county commissioners meeting. So it has been rezoned to the institutional public. The other items here, grading permit to prep the site to meet the 2021 deadline for construction. That's been completed. The commercial site plan is currently under planning review, and the variances for landscaping and parking minimums is this petition here tonight. So next slide. Okay, so this petition site is located at 9039 West Hines Road, 9079 West Hines Road, and 6223 South Birch Road. It's in section 32 of Van Buren Township. So the current zoning, this has all now been rezoned. It's the institutional public. The comprehensive plan has it designated as rural residential. So now we have some site conditions here. The petition site is 1.778 acres. It contains 4 separate parcels that will all be combined into 1 lot of record. That was done prior to the rezone. It maintains frontage along South Birch Road, West Hines Road, and West Center Street. The property was recently approved for 2 alleyway vacations that ran east and west and north and south. And the fire station will be locating in the middle of the parcels with driveway access following the prior alleyway running west to east off of South Birch and West Center Street. You can see the slope map there too, that it's primarily flat outside of the areas to the south and to the southwest. So now we have some site photos here of the property. We can kind of just go through these, kind of just see the petition site around here in at West Birch and West Hines, or South Birch and West Hines. You can go to the next slide, please. And some more petition photos, excuse me, of the site. They have begun doing some prep work here. You can also see some nearby structures that are off the property in that top right photograph. Some more photos of the petition site. And here we have an aerial imagery of the site in general. So this existing white home is no longer there. This is some old imagery. And then the old fire station, you can see here, kind of in the top right of the photograph. It's the gray building, yeah, right where the cursor is. That's the existing one. Okay, so here we have the petitioner's letter talking about their own findings and reasons to applying for the variances. Again, for the parking requirements, the Monroe County zoning ordinance requires 27 parking spaces for the use of government facility and its own calculation on how many spaces are required per the square footage of the structure. But given that it is a fire station and the limited spacing in the area, the petitioner's representative is stating that the 5 parking spaces will meet the need for employees and public, and then the actual fire trucks will be parked inside the structure. In regards to the streetscaping variance, again, their main concern would be sight distance for the fire trucks and emergency service vehicles with respect to that buffer yard requirement, the streetscape to be exact. Here's a site plan. This is just an overview site plan of the petition site and the fire station structure, as well as the drive kind of design that they have here. Highway Department didn't have any comments on this petition particularly, and Stormwater Department didn't have any comments on this petition. They are both directly involved in the review of the commercial site plan that I said again is under planning review at the time. So overall, staff has 2 recommendations. Staff recommends approval of the minimum parking requirement to Chapter 806 based on the findings of fact and subject to the Monroe County Highway Department and Stormwater Engineer reports. And staff also recommends approval of the streetscape requirement to Chapter 830 based on the findings of fact and subject to the Monroe County Highway Department and Stormwater Engineer reports. I will now take any questions if anyone has any.
Any questions for staff? Seeing none, would the petitioner's representative like to speak?
Hello, everyone. This is Daniel Butler with Bynum Faneuil and Associates. We're
Can
representing.
I swear you in, sir?
Yep,
You swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
We're representing the Van Buren Township trustees for this new fire department. The reduced amount of streetscape plantings, we are just reducing them. We're not asking them for them to be absent. So we're still proposing 4 trees, 50 shrubs, 50 grasses and perennials, 4 streetscape, as you can see along the west property line. We have the septic, the proposed septic is at the northwest side of the site, and that's to be on undisturbed ground. So we can't have any type of grading in that area. And then we also will have existing utilities around the northwest corner of the site. And also, of course, being a fire station, they're requesting for site distance purposes that it not be on the south and north sides of the property because of, wanting to get in and out of the property quickly with fire, with a fire truck. The last thing is the other hardship that this property in particular creates is that it's surrounded by 3 public roads. So that's 3 times as much streetscape. So it puts a little bit more streetscape than normal on any given commercial. And point out is on the southeast residential property to the site, we're providing a thick buffer. And so we're not taking any of that away, but still being mindful of our neighbor there to the southeast. And as for the parking, there will be some additional parking at the southwest corner of the building that is not shown on this plan. Provide 4 more spaces, so we'll have spaces for visitors plus for the firefighters' trucks or their own vehicles. But the amount that was required by the ordinance was far exceeds what you would need for a fire station of this type. I can answer any questions.
Anyone have any questions for the petitioner? Okay, thank you, sir. Anyone else would like to speak on behalf of the petition? Seeing none, anyone wish to speak against the petition? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Well, in the matter of request 2004-VAR 23 and 24, design standard variances to Chapter 806 regarding minimum parking and Chapter 830 regarding streetscapes, I'd like to recommend approval. I'd like to move that we approve both these variances based on practical difficulties and finding of fact, and subject to Monroe County Highway Department and Stormwater Engineer reports.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, I will call the roll. This is on variance number 2004 variance 23 and 24. The minimum parking variance from Chapter 806 and the streetscape variance from Chapter 830 for the Van Buren Fire Department project to be located at 9039 West Hine Roads in Van Buren Township. And a vote in favor is a vote to approve both variances. Margaret Clemens,
Yes.
Bernie Garitas,
Yes.
William Hosea,
Yes.
Mary Beth Kubarchek,
Yes.
Vicky Sorensen.
Yes.
Both variances are granted by a vote of 5-0.
All
Thank you.
right. Thank you, sir. You have a good evening. Did we miss approving the minutes from last meeting?
I don't
Yes,
think
we
we
did.
did.
We didn't do that. Shall we go back and do that?
Might as well.
I wasn't in the last meeting, so those that were will have to do that. How do we go about doing that, Larry?
It was March 4th, and I think we did send those out. Let me check.
Yeah, they were in the
You
package.
did send them.
Okay.
Yes, you did send them.
I did read
I just
them.
can't find it. I move that we approve the minutes from the March 4th Board of Zoning Appeals minutes of our meeting.
Second.
Okay, just because of the nature, I'm going to do a roll call on this. Bernie Garitas,
Yes.
William Hosea,
Yes.
Mary Beth Kubarchek.
Abstain?
Okay, Vicky Sorensen,
Yes.
Margaret Clemens.
Yes.
Okay, the minutes are approved. I have no announcements other than I want to thank the BZA for bearing with us on this kind of new event of trying to do this remotely. I think it went remarkably well considering. But I want to thank you for your patience.
My
and
dog really
cooperation.
enjoyed it.
And we will know more about the June meeting as events unfold. I think it's likely that we'll be, at a minimum, a hybrid meeting, that we will have some online participation, but we're unsure at this point, other than we will plan on having a June meeting.
I'm ready.
Okay.
Thank you to the staff for doing such a wonderful job. I really
Thank you so
appreciate
much. I
everything
know
that
that
you
was
did
easy.
to present to us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice hearing all your voices again. Stay safe out there.
Yes.
Yeah. Should we adjourn?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. A motion to adjourn the meeting, anybody? Yes.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you all.
Thanks.